Hi, welcome to the first pre-enrollment Q&A for my Thriving Beyond Survival Mode online course. Whether you're watching this live or catching the replay, I want to start by saying thank you for being curious. A few people have submitted questions they'd like answered here, but if anything pops up for you, feel free to email me while you're watching or afterward, Tami@yourinnerpeace.ca. I'll be sure to answer your question either way. You may or may not already know whether this course is right for you, but you want to understand what this work is all about, who it's for, and how it's been meant to support people who've been living with a lot of stress, pressure, or survival mode functioning for a long time. Everything I'll be sharing today is grounded in nervous system science, trauma-aware practice, and lived experience. But it's also meant to be practical, human, and usable in real life. You don't need to be ready to sign up. You're welcome to just listen, notice what resonates, and take what's helpful. So, as we go through these questions, see if you can stay curious, not about what you may already be doing right or doing wrong, but about what your system recognizes as true or relieving. That's usually where the most useful information lives. So, let's begin. Our first question: how do I know if I'll benefit from this course? Well, this isn't about diagnosing yourself or labeling anything as wrong. It's about understanding how your nervous system's responding and then learning how to restore choice. So we're taking you out of autopilot because somewhere along the way, we've normalized hustle culture. Try harder, push through, do more, ignore the stress, and don't give in to weakness. And the truth is, we were never meant to live like that. Those are meant to be temporary states, not a way of life. And dysregulation isn't all or nothing. It exists on a spectrum, and it shifts depending on circumstances and individual sensitivity. But with the level of stress and uncertainty that's become so common in the world right now, many people are living in survival mode without realizing it. This course is for people who feel overwhelmed, reactive, or stuck in urgency, always trying to fix everything. And it's also for the people who feel shut down, exhausted, numb, or disconnected from themselves or others. Being stuck in survival mode doesn't mean you're freaking out all the time. You can be functioning well on the outside and still not feel okay on the inside, feeling like you're barely holding it together, even if no one else can see it. This course is especially supportive for people who've tried mindset work, productivity hacks, or just calm down advice and ended up feeling blamed instead of helped. It may not be the right fit if you're looking for a quick fix, rigid rules, perfection, or a way to bypass emotions or body signals. That's not what this is about. Many of my clients were highly capable people who didn't realize they were dysregulated because being stressed out and in survival mode had simply become normal. Our next question: what makes this different from other nervous system programs? Well, this course isn't just about understanding how the nervous system works. It's about giving your system repeated experiences of safety so real change can actually happen. It's state-based rather than willpower-based. Instead of asking you to think differently or try harder, it focuses on what state your nervous system is physiologically in. And it names environmental stress, not just personal habits or mindset. The stress of the world is real. This work isn't about fixing you, it's about giving your nervous system what it was never given enough of: safety, pacing, and permission to stand down. My approach is grounded in neuroscience and behavioral science, and it's trauma aware and shame free. There's no pressure, and there are no daily performance metrics you're expected to hit. One way I often summarize the difference is this: most programs assume the world is basically safe and the problem is inside you. This one doesn't. We deal with the issue of dysregulation honestly and holistically. There are real factors, both inside of us and outside of us, that are playing a part in this state. I've been through severe chronic dysregulation myself. I know what this pain feels like. I've done the work and I've simplified and systemized what actually helps. I didn't recover because I tried harder or discovered one new technique. I recovered when my nervous system finally had enough safety to change, to stand down. Okay, what's the difference between being stressed and being dysregulated? Ooh, this is a good question. Well, stress is usually situational. It shows up in response to something specific. And when that stressor ends, the nervous system has the ability to recover. Dysregulation, on the other hand, is different. It's state based. It can persist even after the original stressor is gone, even long gone. And it narrows what you can see, feel, and choose in the moment. It takes away your freedom of choice and it runs you on autopilot. So, a lot of people right now aren't just stressed. They're living in prolonged activation from uncertainty, information overload, and pressure without recovery. This course is designed for people who've been living in that prolonged activation and want to help their nervous system stand down again. Okay, and we have another question. I'm not sure I'm that bad. Does this still apply to me? Ooh, another good question. Absolutely. You don't need to be at your breaking point for this to apply. Many people are seeking out this course simply because they want to feel more steady, less rushed, and more like themselves again. It's designed to work even for people experiencing long term and more intense dysregulation like I was, not because everyone's in crisis, but because many programs unintentionally exclude those nervous systems that need a little extra gentle care. That depth doesn't limit who the course is for. It means the material is gentle, paced, and accessible enough to support any level of dysregulation, from subtle to severe. You don't have to be falling apart to want your nervous system to feel like home again. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. What if I'm feeling too overwhelmed or exhausted to take on one more thing? I recognize this feeling. Oh, that's actually one of the primary reasons this course exists. Overwhelm and exhaustion aren't failure. They're signs of a nervous system that's been working too hard for too long. This course was designed with those chronic states very intentionally in mind. We don't ask more of your nervous system than it's ready for, than what it can handle, no matter what state it's in. Everything is gentle, paced, and without pressure, because that's often exactly what an exhausted system has been begging for. Many people worry they need more energy before they start, but often energy begins to return after the work has begun and the pressure comes off. This doesn't require you to already have capacity. It's designed to help capacity return. Okay. How will this help me in the real world? Not to just feel better. Well, this isn't touchy feely, feel good work. Not that there's anything wrong with that work. I quite enjoy that stuff too. This work creates a real physiological shift in how your brain and nervous system operate, where survival responses quiet enough for your prefrontal cortex to come back online to allow a broader perspective and support choice and reasoning. People often notice more pause before reacting, clearer decision making, and less overwhelm when taking in information, especially in emotionally charged situations. They also tend to notice more capacity in relationships and a greater ability to tolerate discomfort without shutting down or exploding. People often tell me the biggest shift isn't feeling calmer, it's realizing they finally have choice again. They aren't operating strictly on autopilot anymore. And that sense of choice shows up everywhere in conversations, decisions, boundaries, and quite honestly, how you move through the world. So, next question. If I just learned to cope better, won't that be enough? Ooh, let's get into this one. Coping isn't wrong, it's often necessary. For many people, coping is exactly what allowed them to survive. But coping isn't the same thing as having capacity or choice. Coping usually means enduring, staying functional inside of survival mode. Regulation is what allows the nervous system to stand down enough that real choice can return. Coping helps you keep going inside survival mode. Regulation helps you exit survival mode altogether. Coping helps you survive. Regulation helps you live. But I want to be clear, regulation doesn't remove the hard things in your life, it changes how your system meets them. That might look like pausing before sending a reactive email, or taking in news without spiraling, or having a hard conversation without shutting down or freaking out. The situations don't magically disappear, but you meet them with more space, clarity, and choice. We'll have a little drink. Okay, next question. Why are the modules released weekly instead of all at once? Well, it's not about restriction. The weekly pacing is about giving your nervous system the conditions it needs to actually change. Nervous systems don't learn through information alone, they learn through experience. So we're not going to just teach you things, we're going to support you to experience different sensations and be aware of them. When there's too much content too quickly, it can actually increase overwhelm, and overwhelm tends to create resistance. On one hand, you might feel panicked to just feel better already, but at the same time, your nervous system may be needing the softest and most gentle persuasion to trust that you're safe. Releasing the material weekly allows your system time to integrate each small shift before moving on, rather than piling new concepts on top of an already activated and exhausted state. If we tackle too much too soon, the nervous system often becomes more activated, which is why even good advice can be hard to use when you're already overwhelmed. So it's about working with the nervous system rather than against it. You wouldn't do 8 weeks of physical therapy in one weekend, right? Am I expected to follow a schedule? Definitely not. Each week introduces new material, but you're free to engage with it in the way and timing that feels supportive to you. There's no rigid schedule to keep up with. The course has a gentle structure, but you're encouraged to move at your own nervous system's pace. Just go through it in the way that feels best to you, because we're actually asking you to pay attention to how your body feels, and that's another great practice for that. So the course is structured, but not pressurized. Another question: how much time does this realistically require? I'd say most people will spend under 2 hours a week with the actual course material, and there aren't any required daily practices or homework. The learning integrates into your real life as you go. You'll notice things landing in everyday moments, in how you respond, how you pause, how you relate, rather than needing to set aside extra time to do it right. The course is designed for real lives, not ideal ones. Okay, next question. What kind of results can people expect? I want to be really clear here and avoid overpromising. This course isn't about fixing your life or making hard things disappear. With this work, what people usually notice first is relief. Not because anything outside of them has changed, but because their nervous system stops fighting itself. From there, people often describe more clarity, more steadiness, and a noticeable reduction in shame. They start trusting themselves again, not in a self help confidence way, but in a quieter, more grounded way. A big shift is increased choice. Things will still piss you off because some things are genuinely irritating, but you meet them differently. There's less urgency to react, defend, or escalate. Instead of needing to be louder or faster, you're more able to pause and say what you actually mean to say or decide how you want to respond. That's what regulation changes. Life doesn't get sanitized, you get more available inside of it. Okay, another question. What if I don't finish the course in 8 weeks? Honestly, this is completely okay and to be expected for many people. Many people are going to take longer than 8 weeks because learning and nervous system change aren't linear. Capacity comes and goes, and your system will take what it can when it can. This isn't a course you're meant to get through on a timeline. You'll have ongoing access to the material so you can move at your own pace and return to it whenever you need to. There truly, truly isn't a right way or a wrong way to do this. Your nervous system takes what it needs or what it's able to in any given moment. And this is important to say super clearly. There's no failing this course. You can't do it wrong. Okay. Our last question. Will I still have access or support after I finish? Yes, absolutely yes. And I want to be really clear about this because it matters. As I mentioned earlier, I've been through this and I know how terrible it can feel and how scared it can be to not know if it'll ever be better. I've poured myself into this work because I sincerely want you to feel better. This isn't a course that gets taken away after a set period of time. You'll have ongoing access to the course materials so you can return to them whenever you need to and move through them at your own pace. And the live Q&A sessions are open to all course alumni. You won't be cut off from support just because a certain number of weeks have passed. This work isn't linear, and people often circle back when life brings up something new or you have more capacity to sit with it. So the structure is designed to support that. Rather than rush you through and move on, the goal's for real lasting change, not ticking off a to-do list within a set period of time. So that's it for our questions. Before I wrap up, I'd like to say this. If you recognized yourself in anything I talked about today, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means your nervous system has been doing its best to protect you in a world that asks a lot, often without nearly enough support. This work isn't about becoming calmer, better, or more resilient in a way that asks you to override yourself. We are not pushing through, we're changing. It's about restoring enough safety and capacity that you have choice again in how you respond, how you relate, and how you move through life. If this course feels like the right next step for you, you're very welcome to join us. And if it doesn't feel like the right time, that's okay too. Nothing here is meant to rush you or pressure you. Wherever you are right now, I hope you leave with a little more understanding, a little less self blame, and a clearer sense that change doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from creating the conditions your nervous system actually needs. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for taking the time for yourself. With compassion, Tami.